All right, so just what is business intelligence anyway? So we'll do a little coaching here, and we're actually going to be presenting results from our BI survey that we did this summer that will get a little bit more into the detail on this. But you know, ENFOS, as your enterprise software provider, we view BI through both lenses, right? The technology lens as well as the data lens. But the way we talk about it internally is that it's a technology-driven process that converts data into insights and actions in the most effective way, right? You will hear other presentations from Craig and from Tori and from me that will get into actual examples and demonstrations of this. But I wanted to at least kind of flesh out the basic definition on how we're talking about BI. You'll see a lot of different definitions. Sometimes they're more technically focused, other times they're more end-user business focused. But these are the major components that you'll see in most definitions. So technology-driven process to convert your data into insights and actions. So how does it work? Well, again, it can work in many ways, but we wanted to try to simplify it and set a basic framework here. It all starts with the business requests, right? There's a need for some information. It could be information about what's already happened. It could be information about why it's happening. It could be information about what's going to happen next. We'll talk more about that, and you're going to get to see many examples around that. But the business users have a need for information. It could be reports, charts, graphs, one-off ad hoc analyses, and so on. Then certainly you have the data. And as you guys know, we spend a lot of time and effort in making sure that you have all the data that you need to run your programs, projects, and portfolios. Technical data, portfolio data, financial information, compliance information, and so on. It needs to be clean, high-quality data. It needs to be current and updated. Then you have the analytics piece. This is the quantitative piece. It could be simple statistics. It could be, you know, how does my project look in the portfolio against all these other projects in terms of means or medians, descriptive type stats. It could be models, right? A lot of us that have been in the groundwater field know a lot about modeling because we do groundwater modeling or vapor air intrusion modeling. But the analytics we're talking about here are more enterprise level analytics, right? What does it all mean? We have all this data, all this information, structured, it's unstructured, structured. So it's the quant type work, the analytics. And then the last part of it is producing that, right? Through data scientists, through analysts, through professionals that have the ability to go through the technologies that are available and produce those for the end users, right? Now, we're moving into a place in the future where it's going to be more self-service, right? And again, I don't want to steal the thunder from our survey, but we have a lot of young professionals in the room that are used to doing their own analytics. They've been on computers and machines since they got out of the crib, maybe even in the crib. So again, ENFOS as the enterprise solution, we're embedding BI into the solution. Right? We feel that's the most effective way to deliver the information that you need. Craig is going to do a demo later today of our business intelligence platform. Tori is going to do a demo tomorrow morning, so you're going to get to see it with real live examples and some real live data. Now, if I back up and I look at this chart at the very highest level, I kind of look at it as two pieces. There's the consumers and there's the producers, right? The consumers of the content and the data, and then the producers. And many of us in the room are both, right? We might be collecting data, we might be processing data, analyzing data. Through the tools, we might be doing the analytics and the quant work, but we also might be using it to make decisions on our projects. In other organizations, that might be segregated. Okay? But think of this, again, as consumers of the information and then also as the producers. Everything that we do and always have done has a value proposition for our customers and our customers' consultants. There has to be a value proposition, and there is. There's a strong value proposition for business intelligence. I think it really starts with the fact that it's customer-driven. With ENFOS, we're going to roll ENFOS out, the BI tool out on a staged basis. Ultimately, it will be self-service, right? You won't need to come to us at some point in time in the rollout to do your analytics and your BI and your dashboards and so on. So it's customer-driven. It's what's important to you guys as the end users of the data. What are your KPIs? What are your leading indicators? What do you need to look out into the future on to avoid risks that you've identified? Or how do you take advantage of the opportunities that might be available to you by looking out into the future? Faster insight, right? So BI delivers it in real time to the people that need it when they need it. That's the whole point. You're not dealing with the latency of information. It's happening real time. Your reports, your dashboards, your charts and graphs are dynamically updated as you're doing your work. So that's a very important part of the value proposition, getting the information to you when you need it. A lot of the data that we're dealing with are rows and columns, right? Spreadsheets, databases. So what BI does is it takes that information and creates visual clarity for you. It's a graphical display. It's a graphical presentation primarily. You'll see some great examples of this, the visual clarity. And then finally, it's about cost reduction. And that's a spectrum, right? It's the fundamental cost reduction of reducing your reporting costs and your analysis costs. That's the base hit, using a baseball analogy. But it's also, on the other end of the spectrum, cost avoidance. Are we seeing things and making better decisions because of the information that our BI and our data are giving us? So that's a wide spectrum of cost reduction. So it's definitely a strong business case. And what I want to do now is share you the results of the BI survey in about 4 to 5 minutes. So we ran a survey this year on business intelligence for the remediation industry. And our sample size, we had 183 respondents. So we were actually very happy with that. Went out to a few thousand people. But as you guys know, you only get a small percentage of your results back. But we were happy with this number. So we had 183 respondents. The breakdown by responsible party owner versus consultant, contractor, or lab is shown here. Again, this is about what we expected. And we also collected some information about who the person was that was responding. So when I looked, the first time I looked at this, I was like, wow, we're all getting old, right? Look at that, 70% of us are in those two bottom charts. But that's an important element to this, right? So the knowledge transfer, the transition of the old guard to the new guard is certainly happening. You know, this industry isn't that old when you think about it. It started in the 70s, but it really got heated up in the early 80s and that time frame. So a lot of us in this room were working on some of the very first remediation projects that were happening. So one of the questions that we pulled out is, do you use BI as part of your job? So 65% right now are saying no to that. Again, this isn't too much of a surprise, but it sets the context on how people answered the rest of the questions. Because we had basically a decision tree in the survey that if you used BI, you were going to answer these questions. If you didn't use BI, you were going to answer these. And that kind of summarizes how we went through the rest of the data. So we had 3 broad areas of the survey. We wanted to test the attitudes towards BI currently. And I have a few of the charts here. The orange here really is the only, I would say, negative response. But this is a positive response. What level of importance does BI hold in our industry? So 85% basically said it holds a high level of importance. But there's 15% out there that said it's not useful. So we'll hopefully change some of those people's minds as we go. Would you consider BI features in ENFOS as a value-added feature? So 30% yes, a lot aren't sure about that yet. So 62% aren't sure, and a few of you said no. I'll come back to this one in a little bit. We also surveyed around BI capabilities and usage. So in other words, what are people doing today? So how do you access your BI tools today? It's mostly spreadsheets or tools provided by your internal IT department. That makes sense. That's most of it. I really want to know about the mavericks, though, who have others do it for them. You know, we get used to that, right? But again, the industry's changing. The tools are out there for all of us, regardless of our role. There's really no excuse for someone not to be able to go in and do some of their own data analysis. The features that you would like to use. Again, this was what I expected. The common types of features for BI are at the top of this bar chart. Standard reports and data visualization, dashboards, data presentations. The more advanced areas of BI are below. They didn't get as much mention. Statistical analysis, crosstab analysis, predictive analysis, and data exploration. That's because it's difficult to do that, or you believe that you need a data scientist to do that work for you. But again, this is saying how we feel today. How does your organization utilize BI? It's still basically used by a very small group. The bottom one here in gray, used across the entire organization, is very low. But that's where the industry is going. So where's the industry heading? We have a few slides here. This one, I really liked the results. It's what I expected, but it validates it. So 50% are thinking that the future of BI will help us look into the future better than what we're doing today. That's the foresight piece. Insight, and then insight and foresight, you have to think of insight is it's answering the questions of why. Why is something happening? That's the insight piece of it. The hindsight is what happened in the past. It's reporting that we have to do this, right? We have to do quarterly reports, monthly reports. But more people are looking at the why and then the what's going to happen down the road. And we're very happy to see that. A couple more slides here. If I had easier to access and easier to use BI tools, what would I do? So over 3/4 of the respondents saying they would significantly increase their use of BI. All right, so that's really what it's all about to us as your enterprise software provider. We want to leverage that, and we will. How often would your organization utilize BI if they were implemented in ENFOS? So again, almost 75% of the respondents said they would utilize ENFOS BI at least 2 to 3 times per week. Many then were every day and once per day. So there's a demand for this, right? People are thinking this. They want this type of tool available for them. And in summary, I pulled out some of the key parts here. This will wrap up the BI survey. But here's the summary. So 65% of our group, let's say, with that sample size, have not used BI as part of our job. 86% believe BI is a game changer, business critical, or very useful. So that's the hope, that's the vision. 100% of the young professionals that were surveyed believe BI is important and critical to the job. 100%. And that was not true of all the other experience level groups. So keep that in mind, executives, right, as you're looking at your staff and your teams. 83% believe the future of BI is to help around insights and foresights. 77% would significantly increase the use of BI if it was easier to access and use. And then finally, 68% aren't sure if BI and ENFOS will create additional value. And that to us, or to me anyway, is what this conference is all about, and then the follow-up that we're going to have. We want to educate, we want to change people's minds, we want to show you the value of BI and ENFOS.